Missing.
Why are you guys looking for this Wakili guy? What's up?
I have a rather strange feeling,
Why are you looking for him?
How may I help you, Alice? The gate, please.
Habari njema kutoka redio yako pendwa ya Ingo FM kwa wakazi na mashabiki wa Bungoma. Sasa Ingo FM inasikika Ingo Bungoma kupitia masafa ya 103.5 FM. Sikiliza na uchangie, burudika ukifurahia uhondo wa kipekee kwa lugha ya nyumbani.
Awamu ya Baragawi CC, Natural Sweetness.
Kadhalika, tegea Ingo FM ukiwa maeneo ya Kakamega, Busia, Vihiga na Trans Nzoia kupitia 101.5 FM.
Isinikoli umwana wa kwendo mkhana wa imoni dala nombo nyara kunanga KK.
Ingo FM, ininginingi yemuitala.
Dad asked me why Nora's wrists were both bandaged.
What did you tell him?
The truth.
I thought you were not getting here in time.
In time for what?
To run into Marcelo. You need to tell him all the things that you told me yesterday in your house.
Just what do you have to tell me?
I'm going to tell Marcelo how his father died. Then we will see who ends up thrown out and despised.
We'll find out. Because I'm not going to put up with being watched, much less being judged.
Good morning. We almost got caught off guard here. It's hot. By the way, let me tell you, we usually say that we serve you hot breakfast, but literally this is hot.
Literally.
It's hot. I mean, but what are we supposed to do? The other day we were complaining about Baridi, the rain was here. And yeah, here we are once again. Karibu to the program. It's 20th day of February. We are almost done with the month of February. Karibu sana to the program. My name is Victor Olo. So we have got, of course, as usual, a lot to talk about between now and at the end of the show. So please stick around. On the front page of our local dailies, it's all about money, 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 money. Money, money, money. All right?
Yeah. It's money that is missing.
It's money. I mean,
yes.
Yeah. Vivian, it's money. Good morning.
Good morning. A very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the show. We are coming to you live from the broadcasting house. As you've heard, my name is Vivian Degwa, and we have a lot in store for you. We have a lot that is packed for you today on the show. As Victor is saying, it's all about money. On the Standard, actually, on the top page of the Standard, it's talking about dead teachers paid millions. So an approximate around 446 million Kenyan shillings was paid as salaries to apparently people who are not even here.
Dead teachers.
Yeah, dead teachers. So we will be looking into that later on the bulletin. But today being a Wednesday, we also have women at the forefront. And I will be joined by an amazing lady who is doing exemplary at her field. And her name is Daisy Amdani. She is the executive director at the Crown Trust. She will be here to just empower a woman who is watching the show today. You definitely want to tune in for that. Right now, I will hand you over to Mike. Mike Megwe, good morning.
Good morning, most definitely. And today, as Victor said, it's all about money, money. And what you have said about dead teachers being paid. Last week, I think it was last week, we were talking about a case of ghost workers getting paid millions of shillings from public institutions. So And also today now, the State House, the first page of the Daily Nation is talking about State House extra budget blocked. Then there is a story of governors insisting on 450 billion shillings. I mean, it's all about money, but where this leads, we are going to see where this leads. But welcome to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya on this day of today's Wednesday, actually. So yeah. Welcome to the show. My name is Mike. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning to you, and I like the pace that we have set. That
Yes.
you know, most of the dailies today are talking about the half-year review by the Office of the Controller of Budget. Now, yesterday they made public that particular review that indicated how did government spend your money, my money as a taxpayer. Now, according to that particular report, 1.64 trillion shillings is what government spent in the first 6 months of the financial year. We're talking about July 2023 all the way to December 2023. But exactly how did government spend that money? Victor has highlighted that, you know, there were parts of the budget, you know, as mandated by law. Article 223, yes, allows 233, right?
Yes.
Allows ministries and departments to ask or rather seek an extra budgetary allocation other than what they have already been given. So we had ministries and departments going for, or rather asking for 51 billion shillings. Of that 51 billion shillings, Treasury has only been able to avail 3.02 billion. And that's the reason why we are having the headlines that we're going to be having in not too long, as Victor samples some of the headlines in the dailies. One of the extra monies that was sought from Treasury is 500,000, or rather half a billion, 500 million, half a billion, towards renewal, or rather passport booklets. You remember some months ago, there was a public outcry that at the immigration department, you cannot renew your passport, we can get a new one. Why? Now you understand, given that particular review by the Controller of Budget. It is already in the public domain. You can get to their website, download that particular review, go through it, understand how government has spent your money for the last 6 months. And it's quite controversial. We also have 1.5 billion shillings that was requested by the Ministry of Tourism for the facelift of KICC. We have 16.3 million shillings that was requested by the Ministry of EAC. Why? To buy the official vehicle for the cabinet secretary then. But this has been blocked. Treasury has not issued these monies. So get to read, get to understand what has been given out, or rather what has been already dispersed, what is still pending, and I'm sure you're going to be putting that into perspective in the course of this particular broadcast. We welcome also your views. You can get us on X at KBC Channel 1. My X handle is at Ray Manyara. And we start off with matters of illicit brew, where members of parliament are set to question the Inspector General of Police, Japheth Kome, over what they term as complacency by the law enforcement in stemming the manufacture and trade of illicit brew. Speaking on the floor of the House, the legislators said the latest death of 17 people in Kirinyaga could have been avoided had police ensured strict adherence to regulations.
Members of Parliament allege that police have failed in the war against illicit brew.
And therefore, Honourable Speaker, the problem is not just a problem that we can point at the county governments in terms of licensing of bars. It begins with law enforcement by the police.
And he's saying that the licensing of bars is a function of county government. But Mr. Speaker, county governments license bars. They don't license illicit brews. They don't license chana. They don't license. This is an issue of enforcement of the law, Mr. Speaker.
Several police officers have been detained for allegedly selling illicit liquor that had been seized and stored as exhibit.
Could the chairperson provide a report regarding the status of investigations into death of the victims of the illicit brew in Kangai village, Kirinyaga County, in February 2024?
I am hoping that the chair other than pointing fingers, will take this opportunity through the committee in charge of Interior to now draft a national government level legislation touching on the licensing of manufacturers of alcohol, because that will not be left to the county government.
We should extend the same to tighten our laws and actually our policies even in the licensing from the counties, and even a possibility of reverting some of the function to NACADA.
The Speaker of the National Assembly has directed the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security to secure a response from the Inspector General of Police by Tuesday next week.
Honorable Speaker, the chair, as a person oversighting the police, must be emphatic in ensuring that his committee summons the Inspector General of Police to say what they are going to do to ensure that the police indeed do their work in enforcing the law as it is.
I've taken your guidance. We are going to communicate to get our response in record short time
on Tuesday.
Meanwhile, police in Vihiga have arrested a notorious illicit brewer and impounded several liters of illicit liquor and chemicals used in the trade.
Ndiposa maafisa chano walifanya msako kali katika Chebukoya location, Chebukoya division, kwa sababu walipata habari ya kwamba kuna mtu ambaye anauza pombe kwa hali ya juu kwa wingi, jina yake anaitwa Atira.
Elsewhere, at least 100 people are expected to be charged in court after police in Kiambu arrested them for being involved in the sale and transport of illicit brew.
Manake community na wananchi kununguniziana habari, kupeana taarifa. Kuna watu ambao wanatumia unapata kwamba wanatumia chupa za zile kampuni ambazo ni nzuri kujaribu kutengeneza sumu yao, maneno yao.
In Meru County, Commissioner Jacob Oma warned those dealing in the illicit trade that the law will catch up with them.
SEC, machifu, manaibu wa chifu, pamoja na area managers na nyumba 10 wakishirikiana karibu sana na maafisa wa polisi wameweka doria na kufanya misako ya kila siku kuhakikisha kwamba wanaogema pombe zile haramu wanakamatwa.
The Meru County Commissioner said they are carrying out random checks in the bars licensed to establish whether they are selling the allowed liquor.
Now we will be awaiting to hear from the IGF, Japhet Koome, in regard to that particular matter. Now to the reason why it is hot as it is. Now according to the Kenya Meteorological Department, it is warning that the temperature in several parts of the country is bound to increase in the coming days. The high temperature being witnessed attributed to the dominant dry winds commonly known as northeasterlies emanating from the Arabian Desert. However, nutritionists are urging Kenyans to stay hydrated, and that is as a main remedy for now.
Jivanji Garden in Nairobi County. On a normal day, only a handful of people could be found here relaxing, but not in this particular day. A good number of people are seen entering the garden, running away from the scorching sun.
The climate, yes, I think it's because of global warming. It has affected the climate change.
It is very hot. Yeah, and the only way to mitigate it is wearing lighter clothes.
The weathermen, however, warn that these harsh temperatures could worsen in the coming days across the country.
For your information, this is nothing new. This is what is expected in February all the time. We will give you a statement that guides Kenyans and everybody in the East African region on the weather we are expecting in the next 3 months.
The high temperatures have been attributed to the dominant dry winds, namely the northeasterlies emanating from Arabian Desert and which contain dust particles that move in the atmosphere, causing heat circulation.
Going on.
Kenya Nutritionist and Dietitian Institute Chief Executive Officer David Okeyo cautioned of health implications in extreme cases.
Unusual low blood pressure, and this is because of the dilation
of the arteries that carry the blood. So when the blood vessels open up, then the pressure goes down, and that can cause itchy skin also. It can also cause swollen feet.
As a coping mechanism, staying hydrated is important.
Hydration means you make your body hydrated with fluids, and that means you can take water. But apart from that, you can also eat foods that are high in water content, like watermelon, for example.
If you can, stay out of the direct sun and keep hydrated. Now to the story that is sending, shockwaves across the country in regard to how government spent taxpayers' money in the first 6 months of this fiscal year. Now, low budget absorption rates continue to stalk the government, with development vote lagging behind the recurrent budget. The Control of Budget report for the first half of 2023-2024 fiscal shows the government only spent a quarter of its development budget in the period between July and December. In the period under consideration, the government spent a total of 1.64 trillion shillings, which is 36.1% of the revised gross budget, estimated at 4.5 trillion shillings.
According to the report, the education sector was the biggest spender, with 308.2 billion shillings already disbursed out of its total allocation of 690 billion shillings. In the period under review, the Exchequer released 142 billion shillings to the counties. In the 6 months to December 2023, ministries and departments sought additional funds totaling 51 billion shillings. These includes 500 million shillings for the purchase of e-passport booklets, 1.5 billion shillings for the KICC facelift, 660 billion to cater for settlement of Mau Forest evictees, as well as 700 million shillings for the construction of a modern presidential dais at the State House Gardens. However, only 3.3 billion shillings was disbursed, piling pressure on the pending bills owed to contractors. The stock of public debt increased by 8.4% to 10.28 trillion shillings as of June 2023 to 11.14 trillion as of December 31st, 2023. This was driven by a spike in the portfolio of external debt, which accelerated by 11.8% on account of a weak shilling. The government disbursed a total of 598 billion shillings towards public debt. External debt servicing amounted to 238 billion shillings, while domestic debt repayment was recorded at 360 billion shillings. The Office of the Controller of Budget is advocating for the timely release of exchequer funds and strict compliance with the set public debt ceiling to curb further growth in public debt.
Well, now that report has made it to various headlines across the country, and we're going to be sampling what the dailies have to say. Still on how matters of fiscal policy is that members of parliament want the stock of public debt audited so that the public is informed about the actual amount that Kenya owes. They are concerned that since the country has dollar and Kenya shilling denominated debts, it is hard to pinpoint the actual public debt figure.
Kenya's reliance on Eurobonds has raised concern about debt sustainability. There is heightened vulnerability in 2024, which coincides with the Eurobonds maturities. Where Eurobonds offer access to funds for development projects, managing repayments obligations remains a crucial challenge.
When are we going to come out of this debt hole? Because it's going deeper every now and then with very expensive Eurobond coupons, a rate of 10.5. And we are talking about debt sustainability.
Recent past, we've seen serious appreciation, so drastic appreciation of Kenya shilling. Yet we still continue putting our debt in terms of Kenya shilling. I don't know whether it has bothered you that the figures that are always reported are not correct. They cannot be accurate, they cannot be relied on as to how much we owe as at the time you're doing your audit.
Can the Auditor General comment on the
on the effect of the latest Eurobond, and how also we saw the dollar, or rather the shilling strengthened against the dollar.
In our view, we think that the issue can only be sorted out if a raft of issues, for instance, increased export and also general economic, development. I think those are some of the issues.
To exactly know what Kenya owns in debt, that's a call by a section of parliamentarians. Now let's drop to Nakuru County, Naivasha, where President William Ruto said the government is committed to strengthening devolution to enhance service delivery to the people. He says the Kenya Kwanza administration is working with all governors and irrespective of their political affiliation to spur inclusive growth and development. The anticipated county allocation increase, however, hit a snag, with the executive calling on the governors to give the executive time to steady the ship.
On the second day of the cabinet retreat in Naivasha, members of the executive interacted with the representatives from the Council of Governors and the ruling UDA party. Following complaints over delayed disbursement of county allocation, President William Ruto defended government, reiterating his administration's support for devolution.
Devolution is not an invention of us. It is an invention of the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya decided that they wanted a government as close as possible to them. And let me repeat for the upteenth time that at a personal level and this administration, we support devolution 100%.
The head of state called on members of the executive to work closely with county governments in the execution of their mandate, saying it would be counterproductive to sideline them.
The reason why we asked the council to come and have a session with us as we have this National Government Executive Retreat is because I wanted ministers here and their principal secretaries to understand that the counties are our partners. They are not our competitors. They are our partners. And there is a very big opportunity by us working with counties.
So maybe I urge us and urge our colleagues, because we're on the same side. When you see devolution, do not see Governor Waiguru. Don't see Governor Ahmed or Governor Sang. We are just holding office temporarily. See the reason why devolution was actually established.
While the Council of Governors and Senate have been pushing for an increase of a county allocation to 424 billion, the government says it is unable to meet the demand and will have to settle for a gradual increase.
Counties do not operate in a vacuum. Counties operate within the overall framework of the national government. So they had a desire of a certain figure, but it is all, as we said, we want to manage prudently, realistically, and within our means.
The government, however, says Kenya is already out of the economic quagmire and is on a recovery path witnessed by the shilling gaining against the dollar.
We must never be in the kind of situation that we have been in the last 2 years, where everybody in the world is waiting for us to go down. We must never find ourselves there. And that is why what Treasury did was very important. That even in the management of debt, they have now made sure that there will be no time that Kenya will be expected to pay $2 billion in one go.
There is strong evidence to show that economic recovery is with us. And that starts from the last quarter of 2023. And I did actually try to mention in area meetings that we have a growth of 5.6% in that quarter.
Tulikuwa changamoto ya deni na mnaona vile waziri anafanya. Wiki iliyopita aliweza kulipa madeni yetu. Umeona kulipa tu madeni shilingi yetu ambao tulikuwa tunapigiwa duru. Sababu shilingi imedhoofika. Wasijasikia nyinyi mkitusherehekea.
So as a ministry, we want to increase manufacturing, support the manufacturers, especially the local manufacturers, also increase exports. We will be ready to work with the country to look for markets for their produce so that we reduce dependence on inputs, and we are really energized.
Cabinet secretaries will individually be outlining their performance record for the past 1 year in accordance with performance contracts signed last year.
Though the National Treasury says that the economy is on a recovery path, it looks like county governments will have to wait longer before they can get the 424 billion shillings they wanted as county revenue allocation.
Now, with that particular report from John Jacob Curate indicates that, maybe that particular retreat in Naivasha has failed to unlock the deadlock over the 450 billion shillings that the counties are demanding as equitable share of revenues. On the other hand, is that National Treasury is offering 391 billion to go to that particular kitty. We'll be looking at that. We cross over to Matters Sports, where the 20th edition of the Soya Awards received sponsorship to boost 6 million shillings from different partners ahead of the gala, slated for the 1st of March at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. The awards were initially set to be held on the 23rd of February, but were postponed following the tragic demise of the late world marathon record holder Kelvin Kiptum, who is among the shortlisted nominees.
It is my great honor to announce Faith Kipyegon Athletics.
This year's edition marks 20 years since legendary distance runner Paul Tergat conceived the noble idea of paying homage and recognizing the country's top performing sports personalities across all disciplines.
In 20 years, we started as a small came together those days. 3 new categories. But you look now, we're up in 11 categories from about 4, how many? 4, those days.
The theme of this year's Soya celebration, that has 11 categories, is celebrating sports excellence, which resonates well with the milestone the country's sportsmen and women have achieved over the decades.
We're happy that things have changed, and to me, my satisfaction and excitement is to see that we put our sportsmen at the center every day of what we do as our greatest assets that we have as a nation.
Among the sponsors who have come on board to support the 2023 Soya Awards are the National Social Security Fund, NSSF, Communication Authority of Kenya, CA, Kenya Pipeline Company, KPC, Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, and Kenya Academy of Sport. The awards were initially set to be held on 23rd of February, but were postponed following the tragic demise of the late world marathon record holder Kelvin Kiptum, who is among the shortlisted nominees.
Well, that puts a cap on matters in the headlines this morning on Good Morning Kenya. Be sure to visit our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, for further details. As the Met Department there gave a warning to citizens, you and I remain hydrated, avoid the direct sun. I'm Regina Manyara. I leave in the capable hands of my colleagues for the rest of the broadcast.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevaa kichwani. Sisi wakati tulikuwa tunaapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow.
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
How to access KBC Online services via eCitizen. Step 1. On your web browser, search kbc.ecitizen.go.ke. Step 2. Log in using your eCitizen account or create a new eCitizen account and log in. Step 3. Enter your OTP, which will be sent to you via SMS or email. Step 4. Select Matangazo service. Step 5. Read the service instructions. Step 6. Enter your general details. Step 7. Enter your service details and click complete. Step 8. Submit your application and await feedback from eCitizen. Step 9. Click on Pay and your payment will be made automatically via M-Pesa and your service will be delivered. Step 10. You will then receive an invoice to confirm your payment. For any assistance, reach us on email ecitizen@kbc.co.ke. Telephone number +254 20 22 41 896.
The only time you cook for me is when you're on the wrong. So what have you done today?
Hana peace kwa hiyo bedroom yenyu.
Sasa hiyo nini unaniambia mbele ya mtoto?
Jane si mtoto.
Mnajua mimi naweza chukua virago zangu zote. Niende. Yaani uganga inafanya kazi kabisa. Mpaka inaniharibia boma uganga.
Why do you have to make everything about you?
She's probably the only friend I have left.
I'm not your friend.
Jenny is actually on her way here.
What?
Leave her alone.
Jane, come on. Please keep your voice
Please.
down. Jane.
Tell Tina the truth. Let her move on.
Move on from what?
他还真查到些东西。
对呀，这8个安全屋是从我的档案里选出来的，我逐一给他们编上了号，直到最后一刻，我才通知了每一个特警，怎么可能泄密？
Take them into protective custody. They'll accuse us of strong-arming them. There'll be public unrest, riots, God knows what else. On the other hand, we have to act now.
General Chang, your sector is the only one under control now, right?
只是暂时的。
All right, it's Wednesday, you know, it's time for The Viewpoint. Good morning, welcome to the program. It's 10 minutes past 7 a.m. Good morning. And just before you leave your house, this is how we usually do it, serving you what you need to do. Now, today we want to do a 360-degree look around on what's happening in the country, basically state of the nation. And a lot is happening down in Naivasha with the rat retreat ending today. So we just want to take a look at some of the takeaways from that particular retreat. We've heard how governors also decried the government proposal to cut down the county allocation by around 33 billion shillings. But the COG chair, that is Governor Anne Waiguru, said that is like a clawback to where Kenya was before devolution. That and much more coming up shortly. So stick around, but you know how we do it. Let's take a look at what we have on the traffic situation in the country. Let me start with the Thika Road. Thika Road today, according to what I'm told, is that there is an accident that happened along Thika Road earlier today. Regina Manyara also posted that on her social media handles. There is a traffic where it's reported that a 14-seater matatu rammed into another vehicle and the driver of the ill-fated vehicle passed on. And so that's affecting the traffic all the way past Garden City, all right, inbound to the CBD. That is why we have got this gridlock. It's chock-a-block all the way from Garden City. That is almost heading towards, how do you call it, a safari park. So if you are using Thika Road today, you have to be extra patient. Or if you can get an alternative route to get to the CBD or to your destination, then you better do that. So it's affecting both the main expressway as well as the service lane. Look at that. It's not a good sight to, to look at this entire stretch of Thika Road. At some point, someone would wish that you get to the other side of the oncoming traffic. It's chock-a-block all the way past KCA University down to Utali Hotel. And yes, it's culminating at Muthaiga. That's Muthaiga Square there. So today is not going to be a very good day for motorists or Kenyans using Thika Road. That also affecting that traffic on Kiambu Road. You see what it was like. So that's also gone past. It's actually heading towards, how do you call it? Past Kiambu. That is Directorate of Criminal Investigations. It's a mess. So we'll have to be very cautious on those two routes. What about Limuru Road? Limuru Road, the problem is around City Park, but after that, the entire stretch heading towards Muthaiga. Yes, another problem just after Karura towards Gigiri. A bit of some traffic there, but you have to be very cautious. What about the other side, Western Circuit to the town? ABC Place coming to Westlands roundabout, looking pretty fine. All right, that's extend all the way to Mombasa Road, in and outbound, looking okay. That is Langata Road again. Langata Road today, iko sawa. So what to Langata Road, all good to go. Jogo Road, yes, so far so good. And Ngong Road as well. A bit of some traffic at the Junction Mall. There we have it. Itabidi tuvumilie kidogo. That is as far as that is concerned. Okay, what about Kisumu City? Kisumu, good morning. Nothing much to report about. Kakamega Road coming down to Kondele and to Kibuye Market to the CBD, pretty fine. Outbound towards Ahero, again, so far so good. If you look at that direction heading towards the international airport, Pia iko sawa. So far, nothing much to report about. And finally, how about we see what's happening in the capital, not really, the coastal city of Mombasa. This is what we have. A bit of some traffic here at Kongowea Market. Yes, this is what it is. But the entire stretch looking pretty fine past New Nyali Bridge. Nothing much really. So the crossing ferry channel there is both sides of the island. Not so good, but you have to be very patient as well. The other side coming to Makupa, all the way from Changamwe, coming down to Makupa into Sabasaba and finally into CBD. Kila kitu iko shwari. Mombasa, good morning. Let's go about our business. All right, that's how we do it on traffic. We'll get back to it later on. How about to take a look at what's on the front page of our local daily, starting with front page of the People Daily. My guests are in studio. Mwalimu Sosion, good morning and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning, Victor.
Karibu sana. And Daniel Orogo, also in studio. Daniel, karibu to the program.
Pleasure to be here this morning.
Karibu. Daniel gave me a different, and you'll have to explain to us how this happened overnight. Daniel Orogo is the current Africa Regional Coordinator, Democracy Moves, Managing Director, Civic Voices, Initiative Kenya, Political and Governance Consultant. Hey, bwana. Heavy. Very
Yes.
good. Very good. Very good. That's how we do it. Karibu sana to the program.
Thank you so much.
Let me start with you now that your voice is on already as you speak. TSC paid 466 million shillings to dead teachers. That is what's on the splash of the People Daily here. TSC paid 466 million shillings to dead teachers. Employer, in bizarre revelations, tells House team, that the agency has written letters to widows seeking refund for salaries given to deceased husbands, retired tutors, and those who had exited the profession. That is what we have here on the splash of the People Daily. Nancy Macharia appeared before the House yesterday, and this is one of the revelations that is on the splash of the People Daily. Yes, still on the splash here. Governors reject Ruto 390 billion shillings revenue offer. The COG chair, that is Anne Waiguru, said, you know what, that's more of a clawback to devolution. And she asks the national government to do its part. All right, that is there. All the executive members of the national government and other state agencies meeting in Naivasha for a 3-day retreat. But let's come back here. This is what you have here on the splash of the People Daily. Let me start with you, Daniel. TSC paid 466 million to dead teachers. This is not this a dire revelation, so to speak.
Well, yes, I think it's consequential. I mean, some weeks ago we were discussing about the ghost of the ghost workers issue, especially when it comes to remuneration. I remember just a week ago, the audit was done, and then it was realized that counties or the state or the government was paying, some of the workers that were in the payroll that was not supposed to be paid. We are into this situation again where the government actually is struggling to audit, the payment modalities to get out the ghost workers who are benefiting from this particular payment. However, I am really shocked by the directive. One is to write to the widows seeking to refund salaries.
Yes, to start tutors and those who had exited the profession, deceased husbands.
I mean that's quite interesting because then what liability would you really put to the widows or the widows to refund? Do these on the initiative that really indicates that you failed, especially in identifying the payment modalities that channels money to people who are not supposed to be paid. But again, remember, is a juxtaposition, because then there's another news carried down in the dailies where the current general secretaries, Collins Yu, is met the Senate committee again, and they're identifying that some of the teachers, dating back to almost a decade, have not been paid their pension. The plans for their pension payment have delayed almost for decades and decades. So I think it's just a contradiction where there should be a very harmonized way of finding out how then is it, what are the modalities of really paying not only teachers but even civil servants who deserve to be paid, but weeding out the ghost workers in quote. I was in a different platform always asking, but what is the profile of a ghost worker? Because it seems to be haunting the civil servants for a long time. The issue about in all ministries, departments, and you will find the issues of ghost workers always haunting, especially when it comes to payroll, especially when it comes to audit. So I think we should really now narrow down to profile exactly who is this ghost workers without goofing and trying to explain. Because then there is a comparative explanation exactly who a ghost worker is and why is that payment being channeled to them.
But of course, this is just but an example of what's happening across. I mean, this just unearthed at the TAC.
Yes.
What about other state agencies and other bodies as well? Molimu, this actually it points at the lack of proper system in terms of verifying who is supposed to be paid here and there. What's supposed to be done as per this headline?
If the Public Investment Committee did not flag out that anomaly, probably nobody would have ever given an answer. I'm not convinced by the answers from the Teacher Service Commission because the payroll management system with respect to exit of teachers from the teaching service, either through death or retirement, are very elaborate. Number one, a casualty is issued instantly by the school when a teacher dies or when a teacher retires. It is issued. That casualty causes the next level a process called pay change advice,
right?
PCA. That one automatically stops any salary that is running on the payroll. And with the ICT infrastructure in place, and we are convinced that TSC is fully on ICT, this would be so quick, so instant, so seamless. And once that is done, then a teacher automatically exits the payroll and payment ceases immediately. So with such an efficient system, we would not expect erroneous payment of up to 466 million shillings.
Which is accrued over time.
This money has not been paid probably to the families. That could be fictitious excuses by TSC, and that is why a forensic audit has been instituted. And that forensic audit, when you talk of forensic, it means those who engage in error of commission or omission will be criminalized. And because this is a pointer to criminal action. Number three, Teacher Service Commission has an internal audit that is able to audit all its finances and check where the errors is continuous, so that they're able to rectify and arrest that. 466 million shillings is money enough to hire 2,000 teachers annually and pay their salaries for a whole financial year. That is almost the entire teacher requirement of northern Kenya. Now, if there are teachers who are erroneously paid, because there is what we call erroneous payment and overpayment even on the payroll, such monies are recovered when the pension or death gratuity is being processed. So that is the other secure system that is put in place within the payroll management and data system. So really, we cannot expect these 450. Last week, yes, we are talking about ghost workers. Who is a ghost worker? Now we are talking about dead teachers being paid. These are lovable. And the same TSC requisitions for money to hire more teachers. While within the payment system, there are errors and the blame is transferred on dead teachers. While we know very well, if today you are a teacher, Victor, and you die, before you are buried, there is a casualty issued and is already at the Teacher Service
That starts
Commission.
from the school, from the head teacher.
Yes, it starts from the school and it is almost instant. It's a TSC and you are put off from the payroll. That's what happens. It is not possible to have accumulated errors in the payroll rising up to 470 million. Somebody must be minting money and taking advantage and using, because dead teachers can tell no tales. You can't tell widows to refund the money. It is not possible. You can only recover from you can only declare an overpayment or erroneous payment and recover from the pension. That's the system that exists in place. So really, these things do not convince us. And it is time, the president has said, we need competent leadership in institutions. We need to remove conflict of interest in institutions, and we need to remove corruption in institutions. That is a pointer to massive corruption being practiced in the payroll. We've not looked at the figures of ghost teachers as well, because the ghost workers are everywhere. It might accumulate to the same. That is almost
That is the same question
1 trillion.
Daniel is asking. Who
and when it is at 1 trillion, Tell me, Victor, if you're talking about wastage of up to 1 trillion shillings, that's enough to hire 4,000 teachers and pay them annually.
Yeah.
And TSC should be very prudent in saving revenue to hire teachers. That is the core mandate. Hire and deploy enough teachers and pay them and ensure that the payroll is able to sustain that and the minimal
Before we take a break, the big boys and girls here, I call them, representing our leaders in Naivasha for stock taking and just taking a look at what happened in the last year and looking forward to what's really happening, led by President William Ruto there. We have got governors, executive members, etc., etc. That is happening in Naivasha. I'll come back to that. With the governors rejecting President Ruto's 360 billion shillings revenue offer. This is also here. We also had how Anne Waiguru spoke tough on that and made requests. Still, on the front page of the Standard is still the same thing. On the front page of the People Daily about the teachers, dead teachers paid millions. This is what's on the splash of the Standard newspaper here. MPs demand an in-depth audit of the Teachers Service Commission payroll following revelations that dead tutors were in lists that saw the state agency overpay salaries by around 446 million shillings for the year 2021-2022. So if this is 2021-2022, what about 23-24? I mean, perhaps it's still a continuing kind of process with the loophole, if not checked properly. Again, still on the splash here, we still have the cabinet retreat. President meets with the cabinet and county chiefs. We'll get into that shortly and just take a look at what really happened in Naivasha. Here we have, Ruto, Tinubu, the flying presidents, again still on the front page of the Standard. Scars of gas explosion. Almost a month later, heaps of burned out wreckage, etc., etc. We can take a look at that story. It happened and most people lost their lives and others also were left homeless. This is what you have. But gentlemen, very quick one, within a minute each. Daniel, the request by the county chiefs for the disbursement, the county allocation, still on the front page of the People Daily. This is what we have here, and also on the front page of the Standard. What do you make of this? Very quickly.
Well, I think you have really indicated. I saw the presentation that was done by Kirinyaga, governor, who is the chair of the Council of Governors, boldly, straightforward, tough, in giving her position on what the governors had requested her to do. I mean, it really indicates, and you see, reading through her speech yesterday candidly, I mean, she is just reminding the government that indeed, one, the position is that for the longest time, there's been push and pull between the county government and the national government, especially with disbursement of these funds to the county governments. This has cost a lot. Some services has been halted in various county governments. Some services have not been paid. You've seen notices of strike, especially on the medics coming from a number of counties that have been mentioned. I think this particular, and that underscores the importance of this particular retreat. One of the things I see is, a unified position in terms of understanding where these two-tier governments really need to operate on. And agreed, there's sometimes we've been also on the set and looking and urging the functions of the government and factions to have some meetings where they would harmonize the operations, where they would understand what then is the position of county government, what then is the position of judiciary, what is the position of the legislature. And I think this particular retreat provides a ground for an harmonized presentation and harmonized agreement, probably for a dialogue. I think there is a room, still there is a room, because they rejected 3.9 revenue offer and still requested for more disbursement, which probably there would be an explanation why that should be done. And I think also the government's, the national, the head of executive, who is the president of the republic, probably gave his opinion as to why it's equally tough.
Let's take a break.
For that kind of,
I need to give you some coffee as we take a break. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Taking a look at what really happens in Naivasha. So please stay with us. I need to also have my cold water. It's hot in studio. All right, we'll be right back shortly. Stay with us.
The king in the land of
This February, precious moments with Channel One entail endless hours of warm sentiments.
I really love you.
Oh, Lord.
Joy.
Did you get the job, Letty?
Romance.
Oh, babe.
Affection. Passion. Family.
Who are those flowers for? Oh, I'm sure they're for Lucia.
Fulfillment.
This is so sweet.
That's Dad.
An array of programs specially selected for you to give you and your loved ones the cozy feeling of being at home.
Impressive.
Baby, let me tell you.
The treat is on us.
Are you serious?
Just give us a chance. Make a date with KBC Channel 1 in the month of love for a heartwarming experience.
You will love it.
Baby, when we first met, I never felt something so strong. And you were like my lover.
Cause you only need the light when it's burning low. Only hate the road when you're missing home.
Make me lie when I don't want to. Make someone else some kind of unknown fool.
And there's nothing I can say or ever do to deserve the love of a woman like you. This is for my international love. Whoa, yeah.
All right, welcome back. Now, Mwalimu Sosion, this is what we still have here, but I want you to take a look at the issue of governance. We've touched on this issue of teachers and millions paid to their accounts. What do you make of the governance request?
Well, the governor's request, they have their own legitimate reasons to make devolution work, which is okay. The Council of Governors is a lobby that is vested with the responsibility of engaging the national government and harmonizing their own programs. But the summit with the president, number one, must be appreciated. It has never happened before. We saw the summit of the arms of government, that's the Chief Justice, Speakers of the National Assembly, and the President, to address core issues that affect the interrelations of those institutions, and particularly to deal with the endemic and historical enemy of this nation, that's corruption. We have seen the summit of the executive, that's the president and ministers and PSS, with the members of parliament of the governing coalition, and also with all the governors. And those were not just mere window dressing meetings. Those serious meetings of engagement. Then down to the county government. The president has demonstrated complete commitment and is very desirous to ensure that devolution works. Number one, more than any other regime, because there's only been one regime before this one, since the inception of county government, the disbursement of money to counties, the president has been very keen to ensure that there are no delays in disbursement as much as possible, despite the fact that we've inherited a very complicated economy with very limited fiscal space. You have to prioritize to pay money for school capitation funds and get down to pay money for counties and then get down to pay for CDF, and those are inherent areas of demand and money. Now, in spite of all this, and even getting the country out of the debt distress, as we are seated today, all county money has been dispersed up to and including the entire month of January. And last year, the end of the close of the financial year, all monies were dispersed to the counties. Why? We've seen huge pending bills, debts, unpaid salaries, and industrial action by workers. That is not what we need. We need counties to have them working. And that is the desire of the president.
But now that
the only stand of that I'm seeing, and which is natural, which is expected, is the allocation in this financial year to the counties, because the governors are saying, no, it needs to be enhanced from 390 billion to 350 billion. And the national government is insisting let it remain at 390. I think for the plausible reasons that the economy is not yet out of the woods.
But
we still
the big
have
question
debts
here
to
is that
pay.
the proposal to cut down that allocation by 33 billion shillings. That's where the question is.
Yeah, of course, that will be an item for debate and bargain. And of course, what we are getting, I'm not aware about the deduction. I am aware about governors asking for 450 billion, an enhancement from 390. And I'm aware of the national government sticking to 390 billion. That's a bargain. And so that conversation, we don't know how it will resolve itself, but I'm sure it's a conversation in progress. But then these are good indicators that the cabinet can sit with governors to strengthen governance. What we need in this country is to strengthen governance, what the president has been talking about, competent leadership. That competent leadership cannot be done by individual.
Let's take a look at what we have
It's about
here.
strengthening institutions.
What about the front page of this, the Daily Nation? Still, State House, extra budget blocked. It's all about money, money, money on the front page of our local dailies today. State House, extra budget.
Of course, we have a very open democratic system, and the Constitution allows the Constitution allowed the processing of.
Let me get an explainer to my audience. The COB, that is Margaret Nyakango, rejected request by the national government to spend 47 billion shillings under an emergency provision that allows withdrawals without parliamentary approval. Among the block's expenditures were 1.1 billion shillings by State House for the purchase of vehicles and building of a modern presidential days. All right, so that is a story on the front page of the Daily Nation here. And something that perhaps many motorists will not like is the fact that fuel prices to rise as state triples April levy. Consumers will pay, all right, this is what here, that consumers will pay for more fuel after the government tripled the tax payable to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority for every litre of the commodity purchased. The Ministry of Energy last week increased the petroleum regulatory levy to 0.0 shillings and 75 cents per litre from 0.25 cents per litre. So yeah, we just wait to see how this is going to translate into that litre on your pump. Again, another sad story here of a Kenyan student who died in a different country, that is in Dublin, in Ireland, and now the family in Baringo wants an investigation into the cause of death of their 23-year-old daughter 3 days after returning to Dublin, Ireland, where she had been studying for 8 months now. The story has it that she was complaining about her boyfriend threatening to kill her, and so here we are. And yes, so again, still on the front page here, governors insist that counties must get 450 billion shillings. Molimu, this is what you've just highlighted. Governors insisting that they must get the 450 billion shillings. We have it. And a meeting with governors at the ongoing National Executive Retreat in Naivasha failed to unlock the deadlock over the devolved unit's share of national revenue, even as President Ruto pledged his administration is committed to strengthening devolution. Treasury has offered 391 billion shillings, but county chiefs want more. So who is going to blink first? Who is going to win? Another story to take a look at. So, gentlemen, this is it. Today is about money, money, money. But let me ask you, Daniel. So, after the retreat in Naivasha, question is what next?
I mean, just like Honorable Sosion said, the idea of such intragovernmental meeting is always to strengthen and harmonize the government operations. Also to just an audit the functions of government, underscoring the success and where the gaps are underlying. One, there's been an issue about the push and pull between the central government and the county government. And now the stalemate is an additional probably of 60 billion that is now on a row. What could have happened and what is probably going to happen is that yes, they might not have agreed about whether who is giving in first, but I think it forms a basis of beginning a conversation. That indeed, with the parameters now at stake and with the current economic situation, there could be a win-win. Perhaps the two tiers of government could agree that if 60 billion in addition is not tenable, then could we settle probably for 30? That probably looks at a situation where there could be an agreement so that we unlock that stalemate.
Yes.
The other portion we've not discussed is on what are other relationships with other arms of government,
right?
Which is also a discussion that was probably going to be tabled in this retreat. Reading from the papers, you're actually seeing that there is litigation cost that is amounting to 1.7 trillion. That is loss of revenue for the last 5 years, where the government agencies are taking each other to court. You understand? The judiciary is ruling, against the executive on certain court cases. My understanding would be that such intragovernmental retreat, and especially now that Honorable has said that this is also in a step forward in trying to ensure that there is a smooth ushering of governance system that is ensuring that Kenya is a democratic space, that there would be a conversation between different arms of government as well. I saw that there was, the PG probably, the members of parliament that were called for a conversation, together with the executive, to understand how, ministries, agencies operate. Also in terms of asking and how to understand on how a legislature, are able. Probably there has been also a number of summons that were being done by the legislature through the committees. And there's been a conversation on how to reduce this kind of summons and allow the cabinet secretaries to work. However, we are not documenting what is the conversation. Is the judiciary representative also invited? Have they also understood how the government works, and hence the unpopular ruling of cases that the executive, that really rule against the executive in the judiciary? Have we also understand, and I wish there would also be a media caucus to understand how the government functions work.
Yes.
How is the relationship between the government and other tiers, media being the fourth estate of government. So I think this provides a platform, and hence moving forward, I think those who are coming out of Naivasha retreat would be able to understand, to unlock probably certain myths and certain misunderstandings of how different arms of government were implementing their functions. So I think this probably is going to ease the tensions that have been existing between government agencies and between tiers of government moving forward. But that conversation also I had probably was not the tabling of the bid by the former premier, his bid to the AU Chair Commission. even though sources indicate it was not really unofficial, was not really put forward as an official agenda. But there might have been a conversation on how to support that initiative forward.
All right. Yes, Mwalimu.
I think getting down to even the aspect of the Auditor General, I think that's a question you asked me, and blocking some payments and all that. I want us to appreciate one thing, and this is what is prevailing in the current political ecosystem. We gave ourselves a constitution. We created institutions.
Are you talking about
yes,
this one?
And the institutions must work. The institutions must work. And what the president has been demonstrating is detailed engagement with those entities. It's a different thing to have laws. It's a different thing to have a constitution. But it's another thing to administer their operation and make them work. So if indeed the controller of budget can stop certain payments, that's an office that was created for purposes of ensuring financial prudency. Because even when you tax Kenyans highly, you must preserve their taxes. And their taxes must give value and return for their money. And then to me, from where I am, strengthening the office of the Auditor General, either by legislation and also by independence, is a good way, because they'll always give you the red flags where you are engaging in excesses, where you have to avoid. And I think, to me, I don't see anything wrong with strengthening the office of the Auditor General, and we live as a country that is able to engage in serious fiscal, financial prudency. But to me, in terms of the county government and national government, reaching a point of agreement, it is not a difficult thing. They have every right to demand for additional allocation in the division of revenue allocation. And the constitution is very clear. Counties should be allocated at least 15% of the national revenue collected. And that is based on the audit of the previous financial year. But there is no ceiling that it should remain at exactly 15. If there is sufficient revenue in the country, they can even get as much as 30, 40, 50, because you want to make devolution work. Many functions, devolved functions, even like healthcare system, agriculture, and other functions that are key pillars of Kenya Kwanza, are actually within the mandates of county government, and therefore relating very well with the county government, engaging, discussing with them, debating. You must not agree with them on day one. They've stated they want 450 billion.
All right.
And the national government has said we will allocate 391 million. Now there is that gap. Eventually, there will be
a number, the amount of money that
agreement.
Is
there will be an agreement because a win-win situation, eventually, in whichever way. And what will be important thereafter is timely disbursement. Timely disbursement of funding, once the economy stabilizes, I think is a key priority of the president, to ensure that there's timely disbursement of funds to county government, timely disbursement of funds to learning institutions, that's universities, TVETs, and our basic education system. Timely disbursement to the NGCDFs, because NGCDF funding really is doing a lot of work in terms of development, particularly in terms of schools infrastructure. So these are key issues. And our constitution created a space to lobby. If you don't lobby for what you want, you will never get.
You never get it.
So,
You
yes,
go for it.
You lobby.
Welcome.
The forum of the Council of Governors, they will continue lobbying. The national government will also engage. other social actors in the economy, like unions,
All right.
will also lobby.
Okay. Now that
So
you're- now
if
that
you
you're
don't
here-
lobby, you don't get.
Now that you're here,
That's
your
what
mic is
it
on. Welcome, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you,
Mkaribishe,
Victor.
mkaribishe mwalimu.
Now this is my fellow teacher. Teacher Mwalimu Honorable Raphael Wanjala, Member of Parliament for Budalangi. You can see he's smart.
All right. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa.
Yeah.
When we talked, but then he's just left Budalangi, so he promised to come on the show. So either way, he promised. Whichever way, he had to be here. People of Budalangi, he's here now. He's traveled far and wide just to be on this show. We'll excuse him for that. All right, Mheshimiwa, karibu sana.
Asante.
Tumeenda kidogo lakini ni sawa tu.
Yeah.
All right. So we talk about what's happening in Naivasha, and the front page that says for the basic of your update as well is TSC paid this 466 billion shillings to dead teachers. That's on front page. Front page of the People Daily, again on the front page, again, dead teachers paid millions of shillings. According to the TSC, they appeared before Parliamentary House yesterday, and now this is some of the revelations as per the 2021-2022 financial year. That is money that cannot be accounted for. And yes, Cabinet and Chief Executive Officers meeting, County Chiefs meeting in Naivasha for a 3-day retreat. We all know what happened there. Mwalimu has talked about the NCGDF. I don't know whether you have money. You have money.
You have been given 10 billion. And you'll be given 10 billion every month and cleared by June.
That's
the payment plan.
We are just 3 of us, Mheshimiwa. Do you have money for your account?
We don't. You know, this Kenya Kwanza government has a lot of stories that you may think they are doing something, yet they are doing nothing. It's just hot air in everything they are doing.
What do you mean hot?
I'm telling you.
Don't be frustrated, be truthful.
It's just hot air on everything they are doing.
Yes.
When they said they had given us 30 million, first they told us remove 7 million for emergency, 7 million administration, you remain with the 16 million. You have 10,000 students who are going to school, how do you pay? How do you
how
pay
much are you
bursaries?
expecting in your constituency?
For the whole amount?
Yes.
I require like 134 million. So far I've only received the that we are talking about. And we have only 3 months to go to end the year. So we are worried. We said 1 month they promised they are going to give to NGCDF 10 billion every month. You never know. Even the 30 million that came, they had promised they will give CDF last year. They gave no shilling until we had to write here in Parliament.
You have to write
It's unfortunate. Sossion these days is not in Parliament, so he may not know what we are going through. Even paying our allowances is an issue. It may stay 4 or 5 months, you have not received any allowance. Things are not good the way people...
You look very frustrated.
This is a parliament that has very frustrated members of parliament. That is why even the president, when he was addressing them in Naivasha, he did this to them. Yeah, and they look so stupid because they will come from there, come and vote the way they were directed. They are not thinking. That's why even the president himself told them, did this to them, if you say it on the TV. How can a whole president tell members of parliament do this to them?
But you see, that is worrying.
It's worrying.
That is really worrying, Mheshimiwa. And from the look of things, he looks frustrated, actually. But what is going on in
Remember, I've been in several parliaments.
Yes.
But this is the worst parliament. The parliament that is captive of the executive. They cannot think independently. They cannot reason independently. They are just choir singers and on everything.
So that's what I was saying. That really...
Let him cool down a bit.
That's what I'm saying.
He's not happy.
That really spells a lot of what we've been saying on the set. And Honorable Sosion would really agree that the only savior of the citizens of the Republic of Kenya is the legislature. Yeah. The Constitution actually envisioned this, that all of us, over 50 million Kenyans, approximately now, cannot go into parliament. But our voice can be heard through, indirectly, our elected members of parliament. And that particular parliament is is an arm of government. That's what I was saying here as we were looking through what was happening in Naivasha. If the president spoke the way he spoke and telling members of parliament, the question would be raised, is the executive in tandem with the legislature? Because hopefully, and that's what I was saying, it is important that such retreats bring the members of parliament together. And how I wish that sometimes even in the state, the only provision that is available for the President of the Republic of Kenya to address the members of parliament is during the State of the Union address, the state of, his parliamentary, when he goes to the parliament. That only is only once a year. Where is the fallback where the president can meet the members of parliament from across, leave alone the parliamentary, the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary? Of course, that is his right because that is the governing party. What happens to other members of parliament from other political parties who equally needs an updated brief of what goes on in their constituencies, other than hearing the president in the national television, or just the news as the citizens here? So I think candidly and being fair, I think it's important for us to really advocate for platforms where the executive and judiciary, the executive and the legislature can periodically update one another in what is going on in their constituency,
I think, Victor.
Oh, yes, yeah. As you respond to that,
we have a challenge here.
Where do we have separation of power doctrine, which is there in the Constitution. Yes. So at what point do all these three arms come together and work with some synergy?
Separation of power does not mean collaboration and sharing information.
Right.
It doesn't mean so. Separation of powers doesn't mean you are completely independent, you do your own thing.
Sure.
That would be tragic in terms of governance. I'm seeing a problem here. We have a constitution that we've been implementing. The spirit is good, and certain aspects might have been worked against over time. And it's now that we are trying to make it work in terms of national government administration, strengthening collaboration and consultations. What the president was doing is actually the right thing, the perfect thing to do, to engage in consultations. Of course, he will have his own constitutional time to address the entire House in terms of in Parliament and give the state of the nation. That the president has done in the past. And that will be the privilege of the members of Parliament to listen, and they will discuss the president's State of the Nation speech. They will debate it in Parliament. It is within their powers. But as of now, it looks like from the comment here, more Kamugunjis are needed for more engagement and consultation, which is okay. I see the frustration of Honorable Raphael Wanjala here of how things may not be working. But you see, we are all Kenyans, Raphael. We have been in this country. We saw how this country was brought forward. We saw what the handshake did. We saw the borrowing. And we can see the fiscal complication that is here. And it is all of us to pay this debt. There is a president who has been sworn in. There's a government. And when you take over an institution, you take over both liabilities and assets. And it's going to affect that entity. And so these fiscal challenges that we are seeing in different places is hard choices that the president has made. That we must bite the bullet, collect our revenue, repay the debts, and engage in fiscal discipline in the way we do things.
Yeah.
And that is how remittances are being affected. Remittances to the counties, to schools, and of course even to CDF. But you can see the efforts being made. Like CDF, the Treasury has said they are paying for the balance for this financial year.
Yeah.
They are remitting 10 billion every month. It's a commitment. And if that is the payment plan in this particular period, then it's okay. But let me come to consultation. Is a good thing in governance. It's a civilized way of living as a society. And Kenya being a democracy that is so advanced, I've traveled the world over, but I can tell you, this is one of the most advanced democracies that we have in the world. That we can come through election, we can run the country well, we can debate, and we can look at many things, we can move forward, we can appreciate each other. And like, for example, the bid by Kenya for the AU chairmanship is a key thing to have Raila Odinga.
Hold that thought.
And you know we'll be voting. It is the president who will be casting the vote.
I see where you're headed. Let's take a break. Let's take a break.
But back to before you go for the break. Before you go for the break.
No. A reminder.
One key item of agenda. One key item of agenda.
Play. Your mic is
in
off.
the cabinet.
Your mic is off, by the way. Go ahead to Google Play, download your apps, all right, the KBC app. You can get everything, real updates with all the radio stations, the podcast, the sport. You can take a look at whatever you want. We have got several radio station services here, all of them on Google Play. Take a look and listen to all of them. This is where we are, all right? Google and Google Play and download all the apps to your favorite radio stations. We have everything that you need to hear in real time. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Mwalimu Sosion, class is dismissed.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out. Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevaa kichwani. Sile wakati tulikuwa tunaapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow.
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Started off a secret, one man as a leader, defied all odds.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yeye ndio mwenye kuturuzuku. Riziki zetu sisi binadamu zinatoka kwake yeye Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeye Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ndio mwenye kuwaruzuku wanyama wakubwa ambao sisi kama binadamu hatuwezi kuwalisha. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala anawalisha.
Kuwalisha mayatima wa karibu ama kumlisha maskini ambaye amelemewa na njaa kunampelekea mja kuwa miongoni mwa waja ambao wataingia katika pepo ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Ndiwe pweke ayuni, wewe ni ngao yangu, kinga ya maisha ni.
Bado safari ni ndefu, wasafiri tusichoke na tusiwe madhaifu, twendeni hadi tufike.
Na alipoingia darasani, wanafunzi wenzake walimsimanga huku wakimcheka kana kwamba hawangecheka kesho.
Watoto ambao wana wazazi wanaotumia dawa za kulevya na walio katika hali mahututi hospitalini hawawezi kuwategemea wazazi wao kupata ushauri.
Mfalme anapotembea anakutana na binti mrembo mtoto show, ngozi laini kama samli ya mbuzi. Anashangaa.
Lakini kwa sasa mtazamaji, baada ya kusoma sana
Baby to spend it, passion ye mafupi no daddy, like uko nishige uko
Welcome back. Welcome back. That's how we do it. Welcome back. Let's go to Article 223. That bit of Article 223, we'll still come back to that. The Article of Appropriation and Use, Constitution of Kenya, the supplementary appropriation, which talks about the government, the national government may, according to the Constitution, subject to clauses 2 to 4, the national government may spend money that has not been appropriated. So, in as far as the expenditure, the expenses with the national government is concerned, this is how State House came up to use this money, 47 billion shillings. But then, we are talking about the issue of separation of power, Mheshimiwa. And at what point, based on what's happening in Naivasha, yes, Mwalimu Sosion says that there is nothing wrong, the consultation bit of it is there. The rest of the legislators will have that right time constitutionally with the president to address the nation at the right time. But at what point do we have the separation of power exercised? But then we still bring all these three arms of government working, with some synergy without crossing the boundaries.
First of all, let's understand the responsibilities of each arm of government. What are the responsibilities of members of parliament? We have only 3 responsibilities. 1 is legislation. 2, oversighting. And 3, legislation, oversighting, representation. Those are our responsibilities. That is why some of us are frustrated, because the people who voted for this government are not being represented. The people who are supposed to be oversighting this government are not oversighting it because they feel threatened. So what they have done, they have gone to bed with the executive. Instead of protecting mwananchi, they are busy protecting the government. Instead of talking on behalf of the common mwananchi, they are talking on behalf of government. Yet, they know there is separation of powers. It is the ministers who are supposed to talk on behalf of government, as we are supposed to be oversighting them. And I was even surprised and perplexed when I had a whole president telling members of parliament that he wanted to take 2,500 nurses to I don't know, Saudi Arabia
Germany.
or Germany.
Yes.
And then so far they have only gotten 500. Now he's asking members of parliament to go to their villages, start collecting CVs, and taking to I don't know where for those nurses to be employed. Surely, up to now, the president or deputy president for 10 years. He has been a president for now almost 2 years. We have only 3 months to go. He doesn't know we have an institution called National Employment Authority. Up to now, he doesn't know. You are sending members of parliament. So Sion will carry 300 or 500 from his constituency. Another one, another 300. 4 members of parliament, sorry. 4 members of parliament will fill those positions. So where will be the balance in the country? Isn't that tribalism? Isn't that tribalism? We are supposed to leave some of this work to independent offices. That's why we have National Employment Authority. They are supposed to have data. How many engineers do we have who have graduated in Nairobi University, JKUAT, Kenyatta University, Mount Kenya? How many doctors do we have? How many nurses have graduated in various colleges within the country? So that when they want these people, they just say, okay, this one graduated, we want 555 from each constituency. They are supposed to have data. Otherwise, what do they do as National Employment Authority? That they leave president, is confused, he doesn't know where he will get the nurses, now he's sending members of parliament to do that kind of work. If I were the president, I would not have told that. I would only have asked the National Employment Authority to bring the names I want from each constituency. So, if we don't know our responsibilities, then we are in a problem. That is why the members of UDA are lost in that game. Because they feel they are the ones who wants to employ teachers. Even when teachers were employed, most of them were employed from Central and Rift Valley. Now, then when they employed people in KRA, they employed people from Rift Valley and then how do you fight corruption, tribalism? Because these people you have isolated will have to fight back.
But what does that really show? Because when the president said that there are 2,500 jobs are available there, and members of parliament said that we don't know.
Yes.
What does that really tell the president or even to the legislators? Go ahead.
In fact, we are not supposed to know. It is national. He was supposed to talk to National Employment Authority that we have these vacancies in this place, get every constituency. We have this number of people. If we want nurses with the diplomas, if we have 290 constituencies divided by 2,500, bring
and based on the qualifications and the available opportunities in the counties. But Daniel, don't you think that out of this retreat, we are starting to get a lot of, let me call it, secrets coming out from that retreat, either healthy or not so healthy, from there?
Well, I think that revelation enough. Just like I've said, when you have such a retreat going on, and various sectors are presenting what they have, and that is subject to criticism that is happening right now, it definitely brings out a number of revelations. Just like what I said before as we were beginning, that within that particular retreat, we're realizing that there is 1.7 trillion that has been wasted in the revenue because of the litigation that is happening within even government agencies, taking each other to court. You've also, out of that particular retreat, noticed that even within the government, in the admission of the president, and how honest he is, our president being a honest man, in number of occasions sometimes, says that indeed there is conflict between different ministries. One minister usurping the responsibility of another minister. That was a revelation that came out of that particular place. The most important thing is how are we resolving it? Going back to what the honorable members just alluded to, I think one of the viewpoint also is probably the president was gauging the minds of the members of parliament about the opportunities that are coming. If they know that such opportunities are existing within their constituencies. And it so happened that the president read a riot act to the members of parliament from Kenya Kwanza yesterday, just like he also read a riot act to the cabinet secretaries at the Presence of State House some of the other time. But you see, the issue is, if the president in his admission, Victor, is admitting that he knows more than ministers in government, okay? Yesterday, he proved also in his statement that I might even be knowing more than members of parliament. Next time, he's also going to say that I might know more about the judiciary. So you see, that is a very important element. And that's what I was trying to say. That one, the president is right. He's a head of state. He's way ahead in terms of knowing information. That is okay as the chief executive of a country. Secondly, it also brings into gap the way the government communicates his agenda plan. President Uhuru Kenyatta, his regime, and probably President Kibaki, which I would advise this government to do, they had a portal that was saying the government of Kenya delivers. And in that portal, it was popularized. Along Thika Road, you could see government of Kenya, where every citizen could exactly see this is the delivery agenda. This is the delivery agenda. But that said and done, the way forward is like what I have said. Even if Constitution envisions that there is separation of powers, and just like Honorable Sosion has affirmed, it is quite important to have always a consultative process of a feedback mechanism in all arms of government, so that when we have 200 members of parliament coming to set and saying we don't know, Then as a citizenry, we tell them, no, guys, you are in a meeting.
We don't know.
How
Even
do you
citizens
not
will
know?
say they don't know.
If honorable members of parliament doesn't know, what is the fate of a citizen?
What is the fate of the citizen? Yes, Mwalimu Sossion.
You know,
good question.
In Naivasha, there is the retreat of the executive, the president, the cabinet, and the permanent secretaries. And they are appraising the different groups. The legislature, the arm of the ruling coalition, and Wanjala should accept, the ruling coalition has legitimate democratic responsibility to organize its rank and file, including its members in parliament, because they were elected on a basis of a manifesto, a 5-point manifesto from agriculture to MSME, ICT, housing, and UHC. And to deliver all that, you need legislation in parliament, and all those who are elected within that basis will have to support the same. So the retreat, all these entities have been appraised. And let me get down to the confusion of trying to label Kenya Kwanza coalition MPs as inept and whatnot, clueless.
Clueless.
I think Wanjala
No, but they were called by
should
the
use
president, not me.
a more parliamentary language,
Tell the president.
and we will make you to go and withdraw that
Tell
statement
the
at the
president,
floor.
to withdraw
Because
that one.
you must use civil language on your colleagues.
No.
The members of parliament of Kenya Kwanza, which all forms the majority, are not clueless. They were democratically elected through a basis of a manifesto on which the president was also elected, on which the governors of Kenya Kwanza were elected. And the manifesto is already government policy. And to make it work, we need legislation. We saw yesterday the successive conclusion and passage of the housing bill, amendment housing bill in the House. That is part of the business. So the president has every right to marshal his own troops in parliament. When you talk of separation of powers, it doesn't mean the sponsoring party ceases to function. It must function because the manifesto being implemented is a party manifesto in the first place, and the members are bound by the same. And the re-election in 2027 will be based on that manifesto. So you must do everything and anything, including legislation, policy support, so that it works. Take, for example, the diaspora jobs. We all know the revenue from the diaspora to the country is even far much higher than earnings from Kenyan export. And so the opportunity in the diaspora is in line with Vision 2030 to have the most competitive human resource in the world. Now, some jurisdictions, they want nurses. And the nurses, these positions, were properly advised, legally. They were advertised in the newspapers, in the media. So what Wanjala Raphael is trying to assert is mere speculation from a defeatist point of view. These vacancies were advertised, and any citizen of Kenya is eligible to apply. And you can see those who have been shortlisted are 500. There's still about 1,500 vacancies. So one of the big agenda of Kenya Kwanza is to create jobs for Kenyans, both locally and in the diaspora. And so when the president appraised members of parliament that, of course, there are these programs, are you not aware? It's a legitimate question because this executive was
don't you think that was an indictment to the president? If your own members of parliament are saying that we are not aware.
And they're right to say they are not aware if they are not aware. We don't lie. We are in a country. Those who are not aware is good. They stated they are not aware. And the Ministry of Labor was right there. And that is why they went to Naivasha to be informed. It is not possible to know everything that goes on in government. So let us not assume.
Now
and that is why such meetings, are key. Then lastly, such forums provide an opportunity for communication and sharing. That's what I know in organizing.
Lastly for you, so what next after Naivasha?
After Naivasha, members of parliament are more informed. Governors are more informed. There's more synergy in operation. And I'm sure members of the cabinet and PSS understand the views and feelings of the different parties, even as they run government. As you run government, you are running it in trust on behalf of the people.
Very good.
And with consultation, work will be more efficient, more effective. And lastly, the big item that might have featured is a National Dialogue NADCO report, which is key and which recommends reconstitution of IBC within the framework of NADCO. It is important that we have IBC so that we don't have a constitutional crisis. We should be ready for by-elections and ready for 2027 general elections and elections going into the future. The 2/3 gender rule, Parliament, both Senate and National Assembly should comply with the constitutional requirement of 2/3 gender rule.
Okay.
And probably we may need more women in Parliament. The office of the official opposition should operate. It should be allowed to operate so that after every election, we don't have unnecessary and uncalled for political crisis. We must be a country that support leaders, both those in government and both those in opposition, using legitimate avenues, either legislation,
Very good.
constitution,
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
of course that of the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you.
As you can see, a lot has come out. And a lot will come out.
Sion, we
the
didn't come
country
here for you to
must
lecture us.
stabilize.
Thank you.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel so bad with hard facts. Don't feel so bad with hard facts.
Because what you are talking about just irritates us. It irritates us as if you are exonerating.
No, the fact will irritate you. You know, when it is so much a truth.
So Mheshimiwa Wanjala, so what next after Naivasha retreat?
You should leave the scheme more
ambition.
Of course, after Naivasha, the Kulule SMPs came in parliament. They voted.
Of which Mwalimu Sosion said that you withdraw that word?
I will not withdraw until the president withdraws. Because the
Withdraws
one
what?
who even told them, did this to them, and they are seated. And the
Okay.
media wrote Kulule SMPs. So I'm not withdrawing because that's what I read there. And it's on the, we can even get it.
And since it's coming from Wanjala, it is inconsequential.
So what's next?
So they came, they voted for housing levy. We know people will go to court. It will still be quashed. And we expect them, the Kulule SMPs now, they should go to their constituency, look for CVs carrying in gunny bags, bring them for the nurses. And do more destruction to this country because they are only being lectured and given directions. They are not thinking on their own. That's what I can say.
All right.
Are you thinking on your own? Are you thinking on your own?
The aspect that I asked before.
Can you hold the Bible and say you're thinking on your own?
That we seems that there is departments operating in silos. You know, if Honorable Raphael Wanjala say that there is then the National Employment Authority with data sets, a number of codes and all that has been submitted with the profiles of young people who are leaving universities and colleges and tertiary institutions. And Honorable Sosion on the other end saying that, of course, you know, adverts was put forward and this position was advertised. Victor, are we staring at a situation where you know, probably people operating in silos or some information, you know, are, you know, being placed in platforms that are not really accessible. And we really want to review the profiles of, you know, the applicants, the shortages that now there is a request for infill by the members of parliament. How is that distributed? If the position, how many, with now the conversation about, you know, equity in terms of distribution. How is the executive planning to equitably distribute this particular position?
Yeah.
How many, you know, candidates from Budalangi, for example, you know, versus the candidates from North Hor, for example, taking into consideration the sparse in space. What is the equity in the distribution of these opportunities, rather than having a blanket call, you know, for guys bring people, so that we fill in the position that is now remaining.
That's another process.
So I think
the
those
process
are
of distribution.
Those are partly conversation that could be you're asking about post-Naivasha, and now the president say they don't know the members of parliament. Now they should know. You want them to know, now they should know how is this distributed per constituency, so that people do not really get into a mess of, this was given much, the other one was given less.
Just before you give it to someone else, I just want to even remind you that remember even when they wanted to recruit National Youth Service, the whole deputy president wanted to be given 1,000 slots alone. And the minister for the public service, I don't know, the Honorable Moses Kuria, said no, every recruit to be recruited at the level of every constituency. You see, he was saving us. Again, it's what I'm talking about, that you are sending MPs to bring you nurses. One MP will bring 700, another one 700, another one 700. 3 MPs have already brought.
Again, just to finalize, Mheshimiwa Rafael Manjala, you're being accused of ODM. You're crying for that Baba Kienda AU, now you're remaining orphans. Is there a split in Azimio?
Well, even if today Ruto resigned, even the UDA will be orphans until someone comes in. You know, us, we know even in the Bible, allows inheritance. So anytime one goes, the other comes in.
In what context, Mheshimiwa?
So inheritance allowed in the Bible. When you die, your young brother will come and take over your family and bring it up.
Yes.
So equally in ODM, we are a family. And Raila is the elder in that family. When he goes, he has other siblings who will take over from him. So we are not worried. Life will continue.
So there is no split in Azimio?
There is no split.
One has that you're worried, some other leaders are saying that they were not consulted. Jeremiah Kioni said yesterday, a day ago, that they were not consulted in the spirit of respect. And,
he has that right because it's democracy. He will be consulted because even our constitution allows consultation and public participation.
Okay.
So, so shown as one of the members of the family, when you lose one of you, you must be aggrieved. Even me, I may be saying let him go, but are you sure I'm happy? I have to be aggrieved because
there's a reason
the
to that.
leader, I'm losing.
There's a reason. There's a reason to that. Are you? That's a quick question. Are you happy with his exit? There's a reason to that. Okay. Yes. Daniel,
are we
1 minute.
into the issues, AU Commission chair?
Yes.
Candidates, and probably you give us a lot of time to be late on this particular issue. I am one of the person who is really skeptical about this particular bid. And I will qualify my statement.
In 1 minute, kindly.
I think the Honorable Prime Minister is being set for another failure. This I say with a lot of confidence for the facts that I'm going to tell you. One, the position of AU Commission is a position that requires one to be voted by 2/3 of the assembly. And assembly includes the 54 member states. And they will do that now from a year from now when the term elapses for the current AU Commission chair, who is Musa Mohamed Faki, from Chad. Now we have a problem, and foreseeable problem. I want us to come back when this thing will be done, please. We have a problem in the election. We have the position now, there is a lady who is now the deputy commission chair from Rwanda. We have a lady who is the former vice president of Uganda who contested against Amina Mohammed in 2017. We're having a problem also in terms of our own neighboring Eastern African countries. We have a trade war with different countries. We have a trade war, so many. So, Victor, because of time, I am thinking that this needs to be reviewed. Otherwise, the Honorable Prime Minister will still stay in his position. He is qualified as an African envoy, but the intricacies, this is so complicated for the AU chair.
Thank you, Daniel. We are out of time. Thank you. Walimu, as a teacher, please, time, kindly. You're out of time.
Yes, I'll save time. Kindly. The AU Commission is a critical position for the continent, because the continent must be transformed in many ways. Strengthen the Africa free trade area, open up infrastructure and link the continent, and consider even one currency for the continent. And we have strong economy. The raw materials that are taken out of Africa needs to be processed in Africa. There are many things. And it's a united continent that is able to do that. Kenya is a strong democracy, probably number one strongest democracy in the continent. And the value to the continent is so key. The president has pushed many things, including even financial and debt rights for the African continent. We've come out of elections. We are a very resourceful country.
So we are
a resourceful country. We are a resourceful country.
Okay.
Now,
All right.
I think
now,
you have added us time for
No,
this
no,
particular
no, no,
agenda.
Now, I'm
we'll
finishing.
discuss.
Allow me
This
to
is a
finish.
president who
Allow
has
me
been
to
taken
finish.
into court
Allow
by-
me to
We will
finish.
we'll discuss
Allow
this
me
next
to
time.
finish.
We'll discuss this next time.
The position of Raila
We-
Odinga
we-
as the chair AU
We are running out of
Commission
time. We are out of
is
time already.
critical for the continent and also for Kenya to have an opportunity
Thank
to
you.
influence.
Thank you.
And that
Thank
I can tell you,
All right, we are
once
done.
agreed,
Mwalimu
it is
Sossion,
the president
thank you
who
so
will
much for
vote,
coming to the show.
and there
Mwalimu
will
Sossion,
be
thank you so much.
diplomatic
Which is now.
engagement
Mwalimu
to
Sossion, thank you
ensure
so
that
much.
is
Daniel
done.
Orogo,
It's
asante
not a
sana for
problem.
coming.
Let's not see a problem.
Mheshimiwa Rafael Wanjala. Mheshimiwa Rafael Wanjala, thank you so much for coming. Mwalimu Sossion. Director, let's go. Thank you so much for watching. Good morning. Have a good boy.
他还真查到些东西。
对呀，这8个安全屋是从我的档案里选出来的，我逐一给他们编上了号，直到最后一刻，我才通知了每一个特警，怎么可能泄密？
Take them into protective custody. They'll accuse us of strong-arming them. There'll be public unrest, riots, God knows what else. On the other hand, we have to act now.
General Chang, your sector is the only one under control now, right?
只是暂时的。
Dad asked me why Nora's wrists were both bandaged.
What did you tell him?
The truth.
I thought you were not getting here in time.
In time for what?
To run into Marcelo. You need to tell him all the things that you told me yesterday in your house.
Just what do you have to tell me?
I'm going to tell Marcelo how his father died. Then we will see who ends up thrown out and despised.
We'll find out. Because I'm not going to put up with being watched, much less being judged.
Kulisa, ni wapi ulisikia watu waking'olewa meno na nyundo na nini na screwdriver? Ulisikia wapi?
Kwako.
Mse kama wewe hauna akili, huwezi tumia akili. Dr. Yasmin, my learned person, my colleague.
Huyu ni daktari. Wewe ni daktari?
Ni colleague yangu.
Wewe ni daktari?
I take your tooth out.
No.
No. Did I take your tongue out?
No.
No. Did you
Sasa unajiuliza unajiuliza tena unajijibu. Ni wewe ndio si umuulize huyu maswali.
So, why are you bringing your stupid here?
Anaita mimi stupid.
Asia tunamwambia hivi, yani kwa nini analeta ujinga yake hapa mheshimiwa?
Unajua nitakuchukulia hatua kali.
I'm learned person. Kwa nini nitumie vitu kwa na huyo msee kwani alikuwa mchinga na mnakani anaingia kwa hospital ambaye mtu atasoma ama atahitimu? Uliuliza huyo msee hiyo swali?
Unaelewa nini unauliza?
Nauliza, si ndio?
This is so unlike Wakili.
Bado unafungua kampuni.
And I've already made the first step.
Alice just wants to make a point to her dad.
I think I'm now ready to visit your parents.
You came to see my mom, my uncles, but we never amounted to anything.
I hear the company's lawyer is missing.
Why are you guys looking for this Wakili guy? What's up?
I have a rather strange feeling, you know.
Why are you looking for him?
How may I help you, Alice? The gates, please.
The king in the land of
This February, precious moments with Channel One entail endless hours of warm sentiments.
I really love you.
Oh, Lord.
Joy.
Did you get the job, Letty?
Romance.
Oh, babe.
Affection. Passion. Family.
Who are those flowers for? Oh, I'm sure they're for Lucia.
Fulfillment.
Oh, this is so sweet.
That's Dad.
An array of programs specially selected for you to give you and your loved ones the cozy feeling of being at home.
Impressive.
Baby, let me tell you.
The treat is on us.
Are you serious?
Just give us a chance.
Make a date with KBC Channel 1 in the month of love for a heartwarming experience.
You will love it.
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tutakita kambi katika nyumba hii ya cricket na kujifunza haya.
People should farm and eat them because they taste good. The second thing is that they are very nutritious. Yeah? High protein. Tunasema crickets wako na protein mara 2 ya fish, mara 2 ya omena, mara 2 ya chicken, mara 3 ya beef.
Usikose kujiunga nasi Jumapili saa 9:30 hapa KBC Channel 1 kwa mseto kamili wa kilimo.
Baby, when we first met, I never felt something so strong. You were like my lover. 'Cause you only need the light when it's burning low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Make me lie when I don't want to. Make someone else some kind of unknowing fool. And there's nothing I can say or ever do to deserve the love of a woman like you. This is for my international love. Whoa, yeah.
Welcome back. And from that heated conversation on politics, we now get into a different segment. This is Women at the Forefront. And today on Women at the Forefront, I am joined by a powerful, amazing woman. Her name is Daisy Amdani. She is a women's rights practitioner and activist and the executive director at the Crown Trust. Daisy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well, yes, and I'm happy to be here.
We are glad to have you on board as well. Now, I want to understand what got you into this space of being a women, like a women's activist, a women's rights practitioner. Just what prompted you into getting into that space?
Actually, it was almost accidental, but maybe you know, the things that are predetermined for you, because that was not my initial career path. I trained as a hotelier in hotel management, and I was very excited because I mean that's what I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed being in that space, and I studied abroad. And after graduation, I worked for a while, but got homesick and came back home. And the first job that I applied for, I was denied that job, specifically the job that I applied for, because I was a woman. In fact, they told me, you're a little girl, you know, like, so it would be problematic. And that was the first time that I actually encountered discrimination on the basis of being a woman, because I was privileged enough to go to an all-girls school, and so I never really grew up thinking that there were any limitations to being a girl or a woman. The nuns who taught us, they taught us to aspire. The sky was the limit. So it was be your best at anything and everything. So it really wasn't any kind of discrimination. Even at home, we were not raised, we were raised as children, you know, not boys and girls. If there were chores to be done, we did them all, you know, boys and girls together. So I never actually grew up with that distinction, understanding that there was something different about being a woman or being a girl. So this is the first time that I encountered it. You know, when you're abroad, you encounter, sometimes, unfortunately, you encounter discrimination on the basis of your race. Yeah, and I did encounter that once or twice. But never because of being female. So that was the first time I encountered it. And when I applied now to another institution, they were willing to take me, but the terms were very, very bad. Again, I discovered it was because I was a woman. And so I thought, I mean, like, what exactly is going on here? And a very good friend of mine, who is now a judge, was working in the space of women's rights. And so we were having the conversation, and I said to her, you know, you cannot believe, you know, what I'm going through. And she said, you know, discrimination against women and girls is a real thing. And so she said, why don't you come and we work together? And she had just started a Kenyan chapter of one of the international agencies, or actually it's Africa-based, that deals with women in law and development and all. And I remember then the first time I went to a rural community, really rural, it's very, very rural. And I encountered women who had been denied the right to education because they were girls. And so girls in that community were not educated. You were married off as a child. They didn't have sanitary towels. Some of them didn't even have panties. And I tried to imagine what kind of a world would that be. And I remember being so shocked about it because, but for a lottery of birth, that could have been me. And I wondered, you know, how is this fair in this world? And from that point on, I said that I will make it my mission to fight against discrimination against women and girls. And that's how now I got into the space. And of course now I got to see that it's actually, you know, built into the traditions and cultures and practice. So that's really how I got into it, you know. And of course it was at a time when Kenya was going through, you know, the whole the birth pangs of a new constitution, because at that time, you know, there were demands for constitutional review. The constitution had been repealed to return to multi-party, because by the time I came back home, that was like in about 1994, around there. So there had been a repeal of the constitution to allow for multi-partyism, but there was still a push for a review of the constitution, a demand for a new constitution and a different Kenya, a Kenya that is more inclusive and everything. And of course, because of now going into the rural, I was like, we are getting onto this bandwagon. So I jumped onto that bandwagon from that very young age. And so through it, mentored by wonderful women like Professor Wanjiku Kabira, who at that time was a commissioner with the CKRC and the chair of the Women's Political Alliance. We worked, you know, with so many of those women, Dr. Edda Gashukia, Cecilia Kimemia, Martha Karua, Alison Chelaite, you know, Dr. Julia Ojiambo. And so it was a very exciting time in being able to shape the constitutional framework to ensure that women's issues, women's interests are adequately captured. I mean, it was also at that time that I discovered women could not confer citizenship to their children. If you had a child in Kenya, even if you gave birth in Kenya, but the father of the child was a foreigner, that child would not be deemed as Kenyan. Yes, even if you gave birth in Kenya. As long as the child, so even if you gave, but yet a Kenyan man abroad would have a child abroad, and that child would be deemed Kenyan, even if that child was not born in Kenya. I mean, the laws were so unfair. I remember even one time when we were doing all our activism, you know, going to parliament, because, you know, there was the discussion, so we used to go and lobby parliament, or if we heard parliament were trying to throw out some of our proposals, we would go and demonstrate. And I remember one time, as we were demonstrating just along those days, they didn't have all those spokes they have now, and the way they've cordoned it off. So, Parliament was fairly accessible. And I remember one of the guards there shouting at us and asking us, do your husbands know that you have come here to disturb leaders? So, even the mentality of people around that time. I mean, you discovered that women, when we were in school, women couldn't open a bank account except by the permission of your husband. If you didn't have a husband, your father, if you didn't have a father, your brother, if you didn't have the pastor, the chief, as in, the state didn't even recognize women as bona fide citizens. So, it was a real thing. So, when you begin to realize just what was being denied to women and girls, it was unfair, and that's how I found myself in that space. Yes, and like literally,
And we love to see it. We need more women, who are really passionate about fighting for the woman of this country. Now, you're the executive director of Crown Trust.
Yes.
What is the trust all about?
So, Crown Trust, which is the Community Advocacy and Awareness Trust, is a trust that I'm a founder of the Community Advocacy and Awareness Trust. And again, our work is around fighting for inclusion and non-discrimination of women, right? We aim to give women and girls the tools, the platform and voice to be able to effect change in their own personal lives, at the family level and at the community level. But we also work with communities, we also work with men. Our work is not exclusive to men, but it is for the advancement of women, inclusion and benefit of women. So the work that we do at Crown Trust, it focuses on 5 key thematic areas. Leadership and governance is one of them, because whether we like it or not, and more, we get to see how leadership affects our personal lives down to the household level. You can say, you'll hear people saying, I don't bother with the politics. But politics determines the quality of life that you will live. It determines whether you will have healthcare, what kind of education you will have, what kind of development, what kind of environment you will live in. And so it's important that women's voices are at the center of that, so that they are also able to contribute their perspectives in leadership discourse, budgets, development, all that discourse, because whether we like it or not, men and women see things differently. I always like to remind people that a woman's concept of self is bigger than the individual. That when women think of themselves, they think of their children, they think of their husbands, they think of their parents, they think of, that's how they think about themselves. In many cases, and no offense to men generally tend to think of themselves at an individual level, So our work in leadership and governance is really to advocate for more women in leadership and governance spaces at every level. So it's not only political. We tell them, even if there's a cattle dip in your community, make sure that women's voices are there. Wherever anything is being discussed at the community level and leadership is needed, women's voices must be there. Also, we do policy advocacy around issues of leadership and governance and, advocate for inclusive policies and legislation. We also support and work with women leaders to make them more effective and even to focus on areas that are beneficial to women. So that's the leadership and governance. Then we have our socioeconomic pillar, where we do socioeconomic work, including women's economic empowerment, agroecology, working towards food security, climate change, and how climate change affects us, and how to mitigate the effects of climate change so that people know and understand how to look after our environment. We are custodians of our environment, because many women, you will find that majority of women are in the agricultural space, providing menial labor, smallholder farmers and all. So it's important for them to know, to have the knowledge and skills to be able to do that. We also do urban farming to ensure food security and for livelihood enhancement. So that's in the socioeconomic space. And then women's economic empowerment, working with collectives, that's women's groups, to help them become more effective. You'll find that a lot of the time we talk about women working in micro, small, and medium. And you'll find that a lot of what we call business is more subsistence. Umeangukia, you started selling maize because you needed kidogo money, then it became your business. So you're not really doing it for the purposes of making money. It's like subsistence. But we are looking at how do we get them into that space to become business people, entrepreneurs, and grow them, because we believe that the groups we work with, who are mainly grassroots women, present a huge opportunity for economic growth. Then we have our networking and alliance building pillar, where we bring people together. So that's one of the things that we're really known for as Crown Trust, and that is our convening capacity. We host the National Women's Steering Committee, which is a platform that seeks to build the numbers of women into a political capital, so that we're able to collectively bargain for what we want, what we need, particularly in the political and the economic space. So through that, we work through partnerships, different partners around the country. We have coordinators so far in 43 counties. And through that networking and alliance building, we build common understanding and common knowledge around issues that are critical to women. So women are not homogeneous. But there are those things that we can agree on. We can agree that we need more women in leadership and decision-making spaces. We agree that women have to be economically emancipated, and whatever structures and practices that continue to make women economically excluded, we have to address those barriers. So we work collectively towards that through the networking and alliance building. The other two are more, then we produce a lot of knowledge materials through our information, education, and communication pillar, so that also groups, you can go to our website, you can pick material, you can self-learn. We have a learning management system, we have videos, so you can learn more about things, and we've got tools that can be used, but also information about what we're doing, the research and everything that we carry out. And then the last one is really building our institutional capacity to be able to do our work. So really that's what Crown Trust does. So it's yes.
Yeah. Now I want to focus on the economic empowerment bit, because there's a forum that's coming up, right?
Yes.
That's the Women Economic Forum Kenya.
Yes.
That should be coming up on the 28th and the 29th.
Yes.
Now, what exactly is the forum all about? It was started in 2021. While starting it, what was it all about, and what's the importance of having such a forum happening in the country?
Okay, so our work for a long time, much of our efforts were focused on political empowerment. But you cannot politically empower women, or anybody for that matter, without economic empowerment. I mean, we even talk about the cost of politics in Kenya. Even for the emergence of your candidature, even if it's not some of the challenges we face of, having to give out gifts and all, just to emerge as a candidate, just to put your poster, you need money for that. And not money that you're taking away from essentials. You have to have disposable income for you to be able to do that. So we need resources. That is one, for women to be effective in the political arena. But aside from that, even at the community level, when we're talking about voters, being economically empowered can help push issues-based politics. Because you see, right now, this is my personal opinion, we continue to find that Kenyans sell their birthright for a few shillings, for a few tokens. Somebody comes, they're addressing your immediate need by giving you maybe 1,000 shillings, maybe they don't even give that much, or a packet of unga or whatever. And for that, you cast away your vote. However, if you're economically empowered and you're working within that economic space actively and effectively, you will be able to insist on issues, because you would want to know, how is your leadership going to improve my business? What kind of policies are you going to put in place to ensure that my business grows, that I'm able to flourish and thrive in my business? Because you want to know how this is going to build you and not destroy you. So we said we must focus very seriously on economic empowerment. So the first thing that we did was we started off with a research to look at what are the challenges. Why aren't women, what are the challenges that are hindering women from moving, from that micro to even small and medium, or even macro? Because when you listen to the conversation around women, it's always micro, small, medium, micro, small, medium. That's the space that we put it. And it's very difficult to grow from that place, because when you're micro, you're small, you're informal, you are on micro loans, you can't grow like that. So we said we definitely have to look, how do we bring women to become major players and contributors to economic growth? And we know that there are several challenges. So we carried out a research looking at what the gaps were, and we launched the Women's Economic Forum as a platform that will bring together policymakers, financial institutions, academicians, and different institutions that work around economic empowerment. Every time we listen to our governments are always engaging in trade agreements, we have common markets, but of what benefit are those to us? Because the government is doing that so that we're able to trade in those areas, but how many women are actively trading? Like now we have the AFCTA, the Africa Free Common Trade Area. I mean, that's a huge market, you know? And the benefit is it is for us to trade with one another, because as Africans, we're not trading with one another. We have the EAC for us to be able to trade with one another. So these are markets, but how are we getting into those markets? How are we organizing ourselves to, you know, be able to trade our goods and services within these markets? Now, one of the strengths that women have is the power of collective working. When, from the time that women were economically excluded, they used the power of coming together to economically empower themselves through things like chamas, where you come together, you give as little as 5 shillings, but through that, because of the collective the power of being together, you're able to do more together. And so for us, that's what we saw, that how do we start bringing women? Because at individual level, we're not able to do much. Because if you look at the macro space, you don't find many women operating in that space, whether it's in manufacturing or in business. We don't have that many women. They're there, but they're not that many. Majority, the space is very male-dominated, pretty much like in the political arena. But because of the challenges that women have faced, being economically excluded, culturally not being able to inherit land or property, which is a factor of production, but also something that you can use as collateral to get money from the banks. So addressing also the barriers by doing advocacy with duty bearers to be able to change policies. Like now in the constitution, you know, women and girls, you have the right to inherit. You can inherit your parents, you can inherit your husband. And I mean, this is not a small thing. You know, I like to remind Kenyans, when our late Vice President Kijana Wamalwa passed away, his wife, this is the wife of a vice president, sat down and watched as elders determined how her property, her late husband's property was going to be divided, including where the dog would go. I mean, it's so humiliating. I mean, that thing of how women are completely denied their agency and even the right to be economically productive. So it's very difficult because, like, you go to a bank, you need collateral. Where are you going to get collateral when you don't have? The interest rates are very high. So, but when you come together, and I want to appreciate that the government has done a lot, So for us, through the Economic Forum, what we have done, the Economic Forum is a platform, one, to look at, every year it's topical, right? What is the situation? So at that time, we were in COVID. In fact, when we were launching our report, COVID hadn't started. So ours was to launch the report, highlight, these are the gaps that we've seen for women's economic empowerment, and these are the proposals we're making towards closing the gap. Then COVID struck. And so we were like, okay, now what do? We had to go virtual. So we did the virtual one. And so we changed it to look at, okay, within this COVID environment, how do we secure women's economic, women's economic empowerment? Are there opportunities here? Then there was the post-COVID. How do women contribute to growing the country, contribute towards economic growth post-COVID? Because remember, the economy took a big hit, right? So how do women now contribute? And the government was listening. They put in place quite a few measures, the credit guarantee scheme. And we've been working with the Women's Economic Empowerment Hub. That's one of the key partners of the Women's Economic Forum. That's the Women's Economic Empowerment Hub of the University of Nairobi. So we've partnered with them every step of the way and even now. And we've been able to bring other partners on board. So we look at the current issues affecting the country and how do we position women in them. So this year, our theme is about...
I'll ask you to hold that thought. We go for a short break and then we come back in a bit.
tusafiri tusichoke na tusiwe madhaifu, twendeni hadi tufike.
Na alipoingia darasani, wanafunzi wenzake walimsimanga huku wakimcheka kana kwamba hawangecheka kesho.
Watoto ambao wana wazazi wanaotumia dawa za kulevya na walio katika hali mahututi hospitalini hawawezi kuwategemea wazazi wao kupata ushauri.
Mfalme anapotembea anakutana na binti mrembo mtoto show, ngozi laini kama samli ya mbuzi. Anashangaa.
Lakini kwa sasa mtazamaji, baada ya kusoma sana
baby to spend it, passion yenyewe mafupi no daddy like uko nishike uko
他还真查到些东西。
对呀，这8个安全屋是从我的档案里选出来的，我逐一给他们编上了号，直到最后一刻，我才通知了每一个特警，怎么可能泄密呢？
Take them into protective custody. They'll accuse us of strong-arming them. There'll be public unrest, riots, God knows what else. On the other hand, we have to act now.
General Chang, your sector is the only one under control now, right?
只是暂时的。
Dad asked me why Nora's wrists were both bandaged.
What did you tell him? The truth.
I thought you were not getting here in time.
In time for what?
To run into Marcelo. You need to tell him all the things that you told me yesterday in your house.
Just what do you have to tell me?
I'm going to tell Marcelo how his father died. Then we will see who ends up thrown out in this piece.
We'll find out. Because I'm not going to put up with being watched, much less being judged.
All right, and we are back. Thank you so much for staying with us right here on Good Morning Kenya, this being Women at the Forefront. And before we went for that break, you were just telling me about the theme that you're running with this year as the Women Economic Forum. Just tell me about the theme.
Okay, so the theme for this year's forum, which is the 4th edition, is navigating within challenging economic times. And of course, we have settled on that as a theme because it is a very challenging economic time for very many people. Not just in Kenya, globally, economies are changing and, you know, people are in lamentation. And so the sub-theme of the event is examining the trends and positioning women. So we believe that even within challenges, there are opportunities, and we must look for those opportunities. We must come out of this thing of ever being in the congregation of mourners and lamentation, because whether we like it or not, and this is an attitude that we've said that we really must build among ourselves as women and Kenyans as a whole, is that this is our country. If Kenya goes bad, it goes bad for everybody.
All of us.
But if Kenya succeeds, it succeeds for us all. And therefore, it is incumbent upon us all. We have a responsibility to build towards making sure that Kenya works. And because our work focuses on women, how do we get women to contribute towards economic growth, contributing to rebuilding Kenya from the economic devastation that we are currently witnessing, that was brought about by COVID and that's debt and everything. So we will be looking at various topics, and there are many initiatives, there are many opportunities that are there. And you find that a lot of people just don't know where the opportunities are. So we are bringing people to talk about the opportunities that are there in the common markets, and the financing opportunities that are there. So we have financial providers to let people know how they can access finances, you know, to be able to do that work, whether there are skills, you know, and information, share research information that a lot of which is being done through the Women's Economic Hub of the University of Nairobi, you know, to be able to address some of the challenges, you know, the research showing where the gaps are.
Yeah.
And our chief guest is the Cabinet Secretary for Gender and Heritage and Culture, the Honorable Aisha Jumwa.
Yeah.
And we're very excited because from the time we started the Women's Economic Forum, the Ministry of Gender has always partnered with us from the time of Professor Margaret Kobia and now with Honorable Aisha Jumwa. They have always partnered with us. So on this, we are collaborating with government and key development partners. Among them, of course, I've said the Women's Economic Empowerment Hub of the University of Nairobi. We have Christian Aid that are also partnering with us in this. And we have other players, TISA, CRU, the Global Affairs Canada, who are supporting us under the Women's Voice and Leadership Program, which is a project that aims to build voices, women's voices and institutional capacity to make women effective in the work that they're doing. So we are very excited, and I hope you join us, come. By the way, even for young people, you know, sometimes when we have these conversations, people think that we're not thinking, we're looking at even for young people. You know, we've discovered there are so many opportunities. This social media space, it's
really creative.
Yes, it's a creative space. Yeah. We're going to have one of our guests is going to be in Jugush.
Okay.
Yes, he's going to be there because, you know, he's a very popular.
Yeah, and he's really known how to navigate
that
you know,
space.
making money.
Yes,
off
and
of
we
social
have
media.
we'll have people from Google and YouTube, letting people know, the young people know how they can monetize their content, how they can how innovative ways. There's even gaming. Did you know? You know, Kenyans are known very well for their athletic prowess. But did you know that there are video games and that there's even a Commonwealth Games of video games? And we have some very serious players in Kenya. So we're going to be talking about that also. We're going to showcase spaces that people don't traditionally think of, you know, and of course the agricultural space, because we can't run away from agriculture. Agriculture is one of the biggest contributors to the economy, but how can we be more efficient, you know? We will have people from the Association of Manufacturers, the State Department of Micro and Small Enterprises, and our message is actually to women that, first of all, even though that these are challenging economic times, the only way is up. So we see this as an opportunity for women to grow and contribute significantly towards our economic rebound, but also come and see where new spaces are. And we want to move women from that micro space. We want to change this conversation. We don't want to continually speak of micro, small, informal. We're saying, let's formalize. We also want to bring KRA on board to demystify this issue of taxation, because even though we are feeling pressed, yes, but you know, you can't continue in the informal space. If you are going to grow, you're going to have to formalize. And that means that you're going to have to engage with our tax people. And so we want them to come. We are also making recommendations because we believe that the government there's plenty of room for government to enhance some of the policies so that they don't make it frightening for people or chase people away from that space and push people into informal and dark spaces. We want women to work, you know, in the open spaces, and we want to harness the power of collectives to be able to, you know, meaningfully operate within these new spaces that are being created.
Speaking of the government, maybe how have they come in as at now in terms of helping with, you know, the project that you're having?
Well, in terms of joint planning, the government has come in. And I want to say this, like from last year, the recommendations that we make, they're very keen on the recommendations that we make, and they have taken up the recommendations. Many of the recommendations we've made have already been taken up. We saw about 2 or 3 days ago, the government just validated the care policy. One of the areas that we have been adamant about, and from the last forum, we said the issue of unpaid care and the care economy has to be addressed, right? And the government must recognize women's contribution, because you see, that care economy is actually invisible. So it needs to be visibilized, because you can't say that because women are looking after children at home, they're doing chores and everything, that's not work. Because for you to come out of your house, you pay somebody to do that work, but when you do it, you're not paid. But it contributes towards growth. And the unpaid, that care economy contributes significantly to what is considered the formal economy. So the care work, the washing, the cleaning, the looking after the home, it helps those that are now in the formal economy, the one they call work, to be productive. So it cannot be said to be, women doing nothing. You will hear, sometimes you ask women, what do you do? Oh, I don't do anything. I'm just a housewife.
Yeah.
That's not anything. That's a lot of work. Looking after children, raising children, being in the home, that is work. It's not nothing. And it must be recognized. It must be quantified as a contributor to the economy. So we are very excited that they've taken that. We know that they're also in the process of just about the developing the women's economic empowerment policy. Previously, there was the national gender and development strategy, but we have been advocating to have a women's economic empowerment policy. And I'm aware that the government, the ministry, CS Aisha Jumwa and her ministry are actually working on that, and we expect to see that. Now, so those are recommendations that we've been making, so that the government picks them and runs with it, so that we're able to collaborate together. So also in the planning and also focus areas, because the government also wants us to be able to add to let people know what is there, where the Women's Enterprise Fund, how it is working, how they can access it, share that information, share information about the other funds that have been made available that people can access to be able to do their business. So it's a collaboration where we talk about what government is doing, the credit guarantee scheme, that is there working with certain financial providers to businesses, to help businesses grow. So there are things that government, we like to bash. Government is very easy to bash. But it's also good for us to say some of the good things that government is doing. And we know that there are many things that government is doing positively towards alleviating the concerns or addressing the concerns that are being raised by citizens, including women. And so for us, we also use that as a platform to let people know that this is what government is doing, and also encourage Kenyans. We are happy, by the way, with the bottom-up economic model, because we believe that that's where we need to focus our energies. Bringing that bottom up, yes, we believe, because even before they started saying bottom up, we've always been working. Bottom is grassroots. The guys at those grassroots. So working with them to bring them up, because we believe that represents potential for a very great leap. And for women, because women are generally socially organized. So you can imagine when you equip them with the skills, the knowledge, and opportunity, they can give you that great leap forward, So yeah, we are excited about that.
Yeah, they say that once you empower a woman, you've empowered the entire community, because as you say, they come along with so many other people.
Women's concept
they carry so many other people on their back. Maybe what are some of the barriers that the women are currently facing in their quest to financial freedom?
So I think one of the biggest problem is the current purchasing power of locally. So, because people just don't have resources, they don't have opportunities. So the lack of visible opportunities. So what we want to do is to visibilize some of those opportunities. Because a lot of people are like, where are the jobs? We can't get the jobs. I know people are talking about jobs abroad, but they're local jobs. And not only jobs, we can also create, So the access to financing, and not just financing, but affordable financing, and that is one of the biggest problems, because finance in Kenya is not cheap, right? It's expensive. So how do we get access to cheap finance and meaningful finance? We don't want micro. Now, if you maybe there are those people who can do the micro loans, but you need meaningful resources to be able to do more. Patient money, grace periods, skills. It's very easy to tell people, go and run a business. Running a business is not easy. you need management skills, financial literacy skills, you know, just understanding things. So building those skills, because you find that many people do start businesses, many women start businesses, but in their third year they collapse, mainly because they don't have the skills, they don't have the know-how, they don't have the necessary support. So we are happy because we know that the ministry, that the State Department of MSMEs are looking into those kind of things, building those skills. We've got the skills training programs, you know, that through the TVETs and all that are helping to build those skills. Because one of the things that really they lack are the skills to be able to, you know, finish and, you know, do things well. Access to markets, so some of those barriers, addressing some of those barriers. Some of them may not be tariffs, but so you know, like some of the things, especially where we're working with cross-border traders, there are those what they're called non-tariff barriers, you know, the corruption, they take advantage of your lack of knowledge. So helping them know what their rights are, so that when they encounter some of these things, they're able to say no, we know and we understand, resolving some of those disputes quickly, and working with, through the Women's Economic Empowerment Hub, we've been able to get women trained at Kenya Bureau of Standards to bring their products up to quality standards. So that's also one of the challenges, because, you know, if you put your product out in the market, it's not a good product. Your product has to be able to compete with other products that are there.
Sure.
The other thing is the cost of production in Kenya is very high, including the cost of importing, you know, capital goods for production. Those things are high. So these are things that the government has to address. So of course we will continue to harp on about this. But we know that even sometimes when they look like they're not listening, they do listen, they come across, they do things here and there. And we have a good champion in Honorable Aisha Jumwa, the CS. She's not afraid to speak and champion for women. So some of those challenges, we know that they are seeking to address them. And we, you know, with some of the things, I know the government also, the recognition of prior learning, you know, even to be able to access opportunities for further training. You know, like if you've not been to school, if you don't have the papers, those qualifying papers. So, you know, you are basically locked out. But now we have the recognition of prior learning. That will go a long way to helping. So some of the skills you have, because life is also a school where you learn. You learn through life, practical life lessons. So now the government is recognizing that, and they will be able to credit that. So that means that women can actually access some of these formal courses and be able to further enhance their skills. So I think we are on a good journey. We are on a good journey, and we are very optimistic. So ours is to contribute towards that positivity and encouraging people that the only way is up. We need all hands on deck, and we are pulling the women's hands from the grassroots, and we're saying, here, we are coming, we're bringing them, let's do this. Yeah.
And now it's evident that we have more women in this country than men. So it is only right for us to work on unlocking these barriers so that we are able to grow economically as a country, because we are more. We're actually more in this country than the men, you know. And I just want for that woman who's watching us right now, how do they fight for their space? Be it economically, politically, socially. How does one, very quickly as we wind up because of time, how do they fight for space?
They need, first of all, to understand what their rights are. What is their entitlement? Because the Constitution guarantees those rights. And they simply, you fight by fighting. Not physically. You open your mouth. You make demands, you engage with processes. You see, like now we have public participation. Honestly, Kenyans must stop, you know, let's go into those spaces and take our grievances there. That's one of the things that we do. We build capacity for women at the community level to be able to engage with the duty bearers and tell them this is what we want. In fact, we've actually just had a series, the entire of last week, we had a series of women economic empowerment engagement with their duty bearers for policy advocacy. These are the things that we want to see that are going to help us grow economically. We want to see investment in these areas. So it's different. Of course, each county has specific demands, but engage. Because when you engage, They listen. Go deliver your petition. Say this is what we want. Negotiate for your space. Turn up, you know, because nobody's going to hear you if you are griping on social media or if you're griping in your house. Go out there, frame your issues, present them, and then push for them. And I'm telling you, it works.
Okay.
But before you close, can I tell people how to register?
Yes, actually, I wanted you to let us know how can we come to the forum.
Yes, first of all, you need to register on www.womeneconomicforum.Kenya /2024, that's 2024, I don't want to misdirect.
Just check it. You know, so that we can come in numbers for that forum.
Yes, please come. But of course, you have to register to come. It's not to just come. If you come, you have to be registered to come. So sorry. Let me just get. I thought I should know it off head. So it is www.womeneconomicforumkenya.com /2024 /register/. So when you register, when you go to that site, you click, you will register, and then it will prompt you. It will prompt you, and it will give you all the information that you need. We are going digital. What do I get digital?
I mean, it's the future. It's where we are at, actually.
It is the future, yes.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having
me.
me.
Thank you so much for shedding light. And thank you for the work that you're doing for the women out here. I keep saying that, and we need more women like yourself. We need to also take up space as young women to just, you know, help in pushing this envelope so that we get to where we're supposed to be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. This is where we call it a wrap on today's show. Make sure that you go onto that site or that portal and just register, you know, register yourself so that you show up for this amazing forum that will benefit you as a woman. My name is Vivian Dagwa. Until next time, goodbye.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it!